Welcome to Key Tech. Please describe this channel if you are interested in today's video. Recently, Biden's opponent Huawei has once again attracted global attention. As a Chinese company that has been included in the Entity List by the United States and repeatedly sanctioned with chip bans, many people believe that Huawei's future development will not be that easy since it was sanctioned by the United States. But what about the result? Just before U.S. Secretary of Commerce Raimondo's visit to China, he said harsh words to Huawei: if Huawei does not stop high-tech research and development, the United States will impose more severe sanctions on Huawei. In less than 24 hours, Huawei released its latest flagship smartphone Mate 60 Pro, and then there's Mate 60 Pro Plus waiting for the United States. In response to the suppression and sanctions on Huawei, it can be said that Biden has done everything he can. From chips and chip foundries to electronic components to EDA software, mobile operating systems, and chip instruction set architectures, the United States will basically be able to restrict everything. Everything is restricted. Except for Qualcomm's backward 4G chips, Huawei basically has no way to purchase any useful advanced components from American companies. What's more, Huawei is also banned from entering the US market. The United States has repeatedly stigmatized Huawei's 5G equipment internationally as having security risks and asked the European Union to ban the use of Huawei's 5G equipment. But what about the result? Under multiple rounds of US sanctions, Huawei not only opened up the domestic electronic components industry chain, but also fully entered the chip industry and joined forces with Chinese chip manufacturers to create the domestic advanced chip Kirin 9000s. Even if you put aside some undetermined things, Kirin 9000s is an advanced chip that surpasses Qualcomm's Snapdragon 8 Plus in terms of performance and exceeds the performance of 14nm processed chips. The United States immediately conducted a disassembly and inspection of Huawei Mate 60 Pro. After discovering the domestic advanced chip Kirin 9000s, the United States immediately conducted an investigation into the Kirin 9000s chip. But what about the results of the investigation? The United States only knows that this is an advanced chip, and the manufacturing process should be around 7 nanometers. However, the United States has no idea about the specific manufacturing process, what technology is used to produce it, and which Chinese chip manufacturer produces it. Even when the White House spokesperson made a public statement, he could only say, although China used a technology that is very unfamiliar to the United States to produce this chip, the United States is certain that this technology comes from the United States and does not believe that China can possess this kind of chip technology. Not to mention the ridiculous self-confidence here, this kind of subjective judgment inherently shows that the U.S. investigation results are inconclusive. Of course, the United States does not want to see China independently produce advanced chips, but for the United States, even if China can produce 5 nanometers advanced chips, it will still lag behind the United States, not to mention semiconductor equipment, EDA software, and chip instruction set architecture, memory chips, artificial intelligence chips, and other fields. What worries the United States most is that the United States knows nothing about this Huawei chip, which means that the United States has lost its intelligence advantage and its control in the chip field. Raimondo personally admitted during his visit to China that the US chip ban has had an impact on the interests of US chip companies. For non-US semiconductor companies such as TSMC, ASML, and Samsung that are restricted by the US chip ban, it is natural that they will suffer profit losses due to the US chip ban just like US chip companies. But why do top non-US semiconductor companies such as Samsung, TSMC, and ASML still abide by the US chip ban? TSMC has stopped supplying Huawei's Kirin chip OEM production, and ASML abides by the tripartite agreement to restrict the shipment of 2000i and subsequent models of DUV lithography machines. These actions are harming the interests of TSMC and ASML, not because TSMC and ASML are unwilling to resist, but because they have no way to resist. ASML is the only semiconductor company in the world that can ship EUV lithography machines. However, according to the relevant data released by ASML, ASML masters only 20% of the core technology of EUV lithography machines, and the rest relies on advanced technology from the United States. Technology or international supply chain support. TSMC is a global chip foundry giant, accounting for more than 50% of the world's chip foundry share. In terms of advanced processes, it has even reached a 3 nanometers process. No company except Samsung can compare. However, TSMC relies heavily on the United States in terms of core chip technology and underlying technology, and its orders from American chip companies are even greater. It is precisely because of its strong control in the chip field that the United States can continue to increase the ban on chips, and has the confidence to promote the tripartite agreement and the four-party chip alliance in order to exclude China from the international supply chain. The rapid rise of China's chip industry and the creation of advanced chips without the knowledge of the United States means that the United States has gradually begun to lose control of the chip industry. In addition, the United States knows nothing about the Kirin 9000's chip. The United States has not received any information in advance about the chip production reaching tens of millions, which means that the United States intelligence system in China has begun to fail. Many US companies have stolen user privacy, and US spies and surveillance programs have been exposed, and there will only be more that have not been exposed. This shows that the United States must have invested a lot in intelligence systems, surveillance, and espionage programs. But now the United States knows nothing about China's advanced chips, which undoubtedly indicates that the United States can no longer use intelligence to target the development of Chinese technology companies. After the US intelligence fails, it is expected that it will start to reconstruct the situation system, including launching a public opinion offensive. This is something China needs to be careful about. In the past many years, China fell into the US strategy and gave up the development of lithography machines and chips.